Okay, we're on screen, so I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Littleton Board of Health, March 8, 2016. We'll get right into the agenda. Let's start with board member reports. Bill?
I have nothing.
Ann? I know the MRC, we have to make a nomination. We'll hold that to the end because we have 3 things we need.
Then why don't we hold all the MRC to the end? That's fine. We do it
Okay.
all at once. That's fine.
Okay. John, do you have anything?
Nope.
Gino?
Nope.
All right, I don't either. So we have 2 sets of minutes, I think. So let's go right into those. So we got January 12th, 2016. Give folks a minute to review those.
I read already, so.
I did it as well, but you know, very early. Let me know when they're done.
I'm all set.
Ann? I'll say you weren't even there, so.
I wasn't there, so I'm going to pass.
John, you okay? A couple minutes?
Yeah, I just wanted to catch this. Okay.
I make a motion to accept the meeting of January 26th and also on January 12th. If we're going January 12th, 13th, 26th.
Yeah, do.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so approved. Next set of minutes is, this is short, January 26, 2016.
I have 2 quick edits when everyone's done reading.
I'm good.
You know?
I'm good.
Okay, Ann, your edits?
Yeah, I have 2 edits. Under MRC, we'll be holding a first aid CPR. It should be first aid and CPR. I don't know where command system training came in.
Is it incident command?
No, it was only first aid CPR, so that, I don't know where that came from. And then the date should be 2/4, not 2/24. 1/28 and 2/4.
Oh,
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve with those changes?
you make a motion to approve the changes?
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
All right.
I
Okay. Do we have any correspondence?
Just really those 3.
Okay.
It's okay, you can abstain.
So we do have 3 issues that we need a vote on. The first one that's in your packet is an approval from
I
the...
don't know if you want that, but I just made that for you. You got 'em?
What's that?
Mosquito?
So we have 3 issues we need a vote on. The first one is the Central Mass Mosquito Project. In way of discussion, I have to say, I used to run the State Reclamation and Mosquito Control, State Reclamation and Mosquito Control Program. I have a general idea what they're doing in town, but they're essentially asking us to approve, correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, $45,000. We have no
money.
detail at all on what they're planning to do for us here. We don't know how much larviciding they're doing, we know what they're doing for water management, adulticiding, we don't know what we're getting for testing for arborviruses, we don't know what we're getting for reporting back on arborviruses, so personally, I have a little I'm concerned with approving something we
intrigued.
know so little about what they're actually going to do.
I don't know.
Do we have a history on what they've charged in previous years? Because I think it really depends on the season, the type of mosquito season we've had. I know in the past,
The charge is based on the
They've-
cherry sheets. It's a flat assessment.
oh, it's a population or something.
I will follow your recommendation, and unless we know what they're gonna do, I will not approve it.
I think it depends on the season. We can't know what they're going to do. 'cause
No,
we
they
don't-
have a good idea what they're going to do, what they're going to do for larviciding. We don't, I mean, I know for a
They always
fact.
do larviciding, though.
Yeah, but where? What did we get for results last year? What are they going to do for testing? They have a good idea, general idea. They can provide us with a general approach. We have zero
Yeah.
detail on what
Right.
they're going to do.
Well,
And
they should provide us with definitely a
and
detail of what
that's
they're
my
doing.
thing. And
Yeah.
if we're going to ask us to approve a fairly significant budget, I would like some description of what they're going to do.
Right.
We can request that.
Well, we do get reports every month.
Yeah.
that
Right, but there
says
should
where
be a
they've
general
been and-
approach. If somebody comes up to you and says, Bill, you guys approved this, what are they doing for us?
Right.
The only thing that I know is that, I think last year or the year before, there was some requests made for some spraying where they normally didn't do it. And in one case, I think they did, in another case, they didn't, and I can't remember the reasons why. The gentleman that runs it for the town, or in the town, puts an easel, he sets up an easel down on the second floor to explain what they do and how they do it and so on and so forth. I know he does that every year. But I've never seen a complete, report on where they spray and what they do and
Well, it should come out in our correspondence. I've seen it. When I was chair, I would get them every month.
Well, what they've
So-
done is not the same as what they're planning, and I have to say
Well,
that.
they do.
Can I finish,
They
please?
do.
Well, I haven't seen anything of what they're planning since I've been here. And I know they don't do it because that was one of my issues. But I mean, for one thing, I mean, there's also, it varies a lot between the districts. So some districts, if you call to spray, there's a big question on whether that's a good use of resources, whether that's just somebody who has a particularly low threshold for mosquito bites, or whether there's actually a need there. There's no discussion of that. There's some, there's a discussion, do you know what chemicals they're using in?
It depends, again,
No.
on which type of
So for
mosquito.
adulticide, what are they using? Because they only use one every year. And that's something the Board of Health should know, if they're going to use resmethrin or cyfluthrin or what they're using for a chemical, that at least should be something that goes to the Board of Health before we approve it. We have a board-certified toxicologist, we might as well take care of, and take advantage of having that. But, and the adulticides don't vary. They use the same adulticide every year, it's changed. There's two larvicides they use.
Larvicides, they changed.
So
I
the-
know that. They
So
changed
they use
those.
two larvicides, one's in a high organic matter, and this, if there's a lot of organic matter, they'll use methoprene. If there's not, they'll use BTI. But, we should be knowledgeable about this. They should be presenting this information to us, in my mind, before we approve half a teacher salary.
Okay, well, I'd just like to say a couple things. I do remember seeing something in the spring, before they go out, making a plan in terms of what they are going to do. That's what I recollect. If it's before we approve the money or not, I don't remember that. But I do know that they do send out something before they begin to do everything. And then they give a report monthly of what they've done in the town, and I do know that it changes depending on the amount of rainfall that we've had, the amount of mosquitoes that are out, and the different threats. Is it West Nile? Is it Triple E? So I'm
I
sure
don't think we've ever had a
I'm
Triple E.
sure there's something that, well, no, but the mosquitoes that carry it can grow in certain locations,
Right.
depending on the
My
amount of
issue
rain.
is not the reports, so we haven't seen those. It's-
So, yes, so we can ask, I'm sure we can ask for that.
Yeah, well, just in due diligence, and if we're going to approve this money, I mean, I'll accept a motion to anything, but in my feeling, there's no detail provided here other than we want the money.
So it seems we can request.
Yes.
We have plenty of time.
Yep.
Right? The things need to be,
Yeah, I'm not saying don't approve it, I'm saying
Yeah.
like some details before we.
I do too. I will not approve myself. How much did we spend the last time? We,
Oh, $45,000 a year.
the same? So I like to know what they're gonna do with that kind of money.
Are you making a motion?
Can I just,
Yeah, please, Bill.
Shelley, is there any chance that the reports from last year could be brought to the next meeting?
Yep.
So that we can just look at them and,
And in the meantime, if there's specifics like what you want on what they're using, I can send
Sure,
you
I
an
mean, I would
email
start
and
out, I mean,
ask
the
for those
reports would be helpful, but I
specifics.
would still like a proposal on, this is what we're gonna do for Littleton for this money. Very simple. I mean, we wouldn't have a plumber come in and say, we're gonna charge you 5,000 without a
But
a
Mr.
contract.
Chairman, I'd also like Bill request that we should have an idea what they did last year. That way we can compare too.
Yeah.
So before we make a decision, we'd like to have the request from, for what they do last year, and then we can request again what they're gonna do for that kind of money.
And Ann's right, you know, the mosquito populations, seasonal rainfall, temperature, all that stuff plays into what they do, but there's still a general scope of what they're offering and what they're gonna do, and some details associated with that. Okay. So we agreed I don't know if we need a motion, but we agreed we should ask for those details?
Yeah, I would do a motion.
Go
I'll make
ahead.
the motion, that we get a full report on what they intend to do to cover Littleton in the upcoming mosquito season.
I second that.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
No?
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
all right.
Okay, next one, and Ann, feel free to explain this one. Alex McCurdy is asking for us to make a motion to approve a vice chair or assistant director of the Littleton Volunteer Corps. So, you wanna-
They changed how they are structured. They're no longer just a general committee where everybody does everything. And I believe I brought this up at October or November's meeting. So it's just a rehash of that in terms of they're appointing specific people to do specific things so that the chair doesn't have to be involved with as much as to delegate. So Pat DiNapoli, I don't know her background, but I know that she ran some MRC events for Harvard and has been involved with their events for a while, and Alex and the fire chief would like her to be Alex's backup. And I don't have a problem with that.
It'd be nice to have a little bit of her background, but it's not necessary. Alex and Scott are fine with it.
Yeah, so that's all. So I guess we need a motion. I'll make a motion to accept her as the assistant director. I believe that's the position. I don't have it in front of me. Do you have the
You want to read
wording?
it to her?
What's the wording?
Highlighted.
Assistant Director of the Littleton Volunteer Corps. So, made the motion.
Aye, second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And one final issue, the selectmen, is a bit of background, because I went to the meeting on this, I know about it. EPA is a municipal stormwater management program. Essentially, all the runoff from towns, there's requirements from EPA on how that runoff be managed. They've become more strict in what they require of towns. It's called the MS4 program. And it's performance-based now versus sort of practice-based, which is what we did before. Part of the requirements for us to comply are regulations around stormwater management. So the selectmen, with the help of council, have drafted regulations, and there are roles for both the Concom as well as the Board of Health. And I actually wrote an email to Keith and the attorney saying, what's the logic in having the Board of Health do this? And I believe the response is our focus is limited to largely illegal hookups and discharges from washing machines and things that typically fall within
Right.
the general area of Title V and septic and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the First Amendment, the Board of Health and the Highway Department are the enforcing authority.
Yep. So, as my understanding, they would like a motion for us to support this, is it regulation or bylaw? Bylaw.
Bylaw amendment.
The Board of Health to support this bylaw amendment for town meeting, which is, when is the town meeting?
In
May
May.
2nd or something?
May 2nd. So this will come up before town meeting, and they'd like to say whether the Board of Health supports it or not.
Okay.
The
Okay.
bylaw amendment is,
Discuss a minute.
so what?
Yeah, we're
again,
discussing it.
Yeah, so clarify again, what is it that they're looking?
Did everybody get a copy? Yeah.
I got the
Okay,
email,
that's
I have
okay.
to admit, I didn't.
So essentially, there's new regulations about stormwater, where EPA is worried about stormwater and
Have to go to the lake, thing like that.
water discharge that goes into the storm drains, into the water bodies and that sort of thing. which also includes things like illegal discharges from washing machines and sump pumps and things like that. As well as, at some point, I think they're gonna look at parking lots and things like that to manage the amount of runoff. So there's a role for the board to have part of the EPA requirements, which can actually come down through the state, but EPA requirements for municipalities, and we have regulations.
Is there gonna be a fine for those people that don't follow that regulation?
Yes, there is.
I believe there is.
$100 first, 300 second.
So there might be some people that have discharged all the way to the street probably, and
Yeah, and I think we
Especially
have
that-
some discretion early
yeah,
on and that sort of thing.
especially out in Goldsmith Street. I mean, is there any way we can let them know first before we make a decision to penalize our citizens for that?
I think we can request there be some outreach on this. I think that's part of the reason to bring it
How's
to
that?
town meeting, but I think we
Yeah.
can,
I'd like to make a motion to give a leeway so that people in Littleton, they may be aware of it without,
So I get all that, what I'm not understanding is what's, maybe I'm being slow, but what's,
Nope, you're fine.
what's the selectmen asking us to do?
they're asking, so they have a town bylaw that they're proposing to meet these EPA requirements.
to the state.
And within that town bylaw are enforcement responsibilities for the Board of Health.
Okay,
So they're basically looking for us to say yay or nay, we support or oppose these.
okay.
And it's not all on our shoulders. What I understand, I read through it last night, what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, the highway department and us jointly have to do with spills. If someone's dumping something down a drain, someone's doing
Right.
something, it can be us or the highway department that can
Right.
pursue it.
And the Conservation Commission has its own set of authority under the Senate Sport requirements as well.
And my recommendation would be to put it in a newspaper, in Littleton Independent, let them know that Board of Health is considering to make a law about it, and also would be a penalty of $100. If the people don't know that, they'll be penalized, and some people don't have the money, and if some people, they have a discharge to go to the, you know what I mean, on the street and everything, so they'll be aware
Well,
of
the
it.
selectmen are making this bylaw.
Right,
with-
we're just the
We're the
enforcers.
enforcer, they're looking for our
Yeah, so
support.
we're not
But I
making
think
the
one of the
bylaw.
things we can bring to them and bring back to them, and it could be part of the motion, is that we request there be some outreach to the citizens on this, that this is coming.
I agree.
And I think when the rubber hits the road and we start enforcing this, I think we can use some of our discretion, especially early on,
Right.
and say, hey, you can't do this anymore, and we
Right,
don't necessarily
right,
have to
right.
fine them
So
first
we-
time around.
First time around. Only that way I will support it. Bill, you have any comment on that?
No.
Okay.
So since you have conditions, Gina, will we look for,
A motion?
with your
Okay,
conditions?
my motion would be that a notice will be sent out to the
Well, it's gonna be
newspaper.
in the town meeting report, it's gonna,
I
this
know,
is
but the
going
town-
to town meeting.
I know, but only 350 people go to town meeting. I like to see this in the newspaper, which will be Lowell Sun and will be Littleton Independent. People will read the paper and they will be aware of it. If something happened and they discharge the water from their cellar because of the water or the rain or something, you know, some cellars fill up with water and they have no way to discharge it. They just let it go on the ground or they let it go, and, you know, they find a way to get it out. So we gotta let them know. It's gonna be
Well, I
noticed.
think that would follow whether this passes at town meeting. I think this motion just has to be whether you support the recommendation that this go to town meeting.
And you're always at town meeting, you and I can get up and say that should be part of it.
And so, is there clear, or will there be clear areas that the highway department enforces versus what we enforce, or is it whoever answers the phone, so to speak?
I remember it to
I
be, it's either,
It's just either.
it's either.
So well, then regarding the discretionary use of penalties, that'll be then, right? I mean, that
Well, the highway
could be-
department isn't a regulatory authority
Yeah.
anyhow. I don't think they're gonna be issuing fines. I
So-
think they would largely bring it to us,
They
because
would bring-
frankly, they're
that's-
more
okay,
likely to
so
see a hose going
that's-
into the storm drain than we
Yeah,
are.
okay, so that's sort of the chain.
Yeah,
All
so
right,
we're,
all right.
they're part of this program, but I think we're the
But
regulatory.
let's have it clarified in that, because in the documents, I didn't get that distinction, Brad. I read through
Okay.
the whole thing. I didn't get that distinction, but I agree with that distinction.
Okay, that's
I didn't get that.
You get that, young lady?
So I think we're largely the enforcing authority in this, is what it boils
Okay.
down to.
And
But we
there's
can-
sort of-
We can ask for distinction, and does it make sense to put this off, or do you want to make a motion in the interim, or do you want to wait till next meeting in the interim, we can get
You
that
wanna wait
distinction?
the next meeting?
2 weeks from today,
Hmm?
right? So, do we have enough time? When's the town meeting?
May.
May 2nd.
May.
We got plenty of time.
I mean, it's going on town meeting anyway, they're just looking for
Yeah.
the boards who are involved with it to,
Yeah.
Why
Well,
don't
I-
we leave it open, and then you and I, we go to the town meeting?
Well, I mean, well, we need, I think we should vote on this before town meeting.
yeah.
But in the interim, if there's questions, and it sounds like there are, I can ask that of council and Keith and Jim Carr.
It actually seemed pretty equal to me when I read through it last night.
I think we're the enforcing authority, because to my knowledge, the highway department has no enforcement authority at all, and
Well, and that may have been an oversight when they were
Well, they
writing
probably
this,
see it.
because
Well,
they
they
said
do.
that the highway department can fine and can do this and can do that, so, I don't know, maybe we should,
okay, well, let's get that. So the question seems to be is what is our role versus the highway department?
is there a distinction?
Is there a distinction? So-
Because if we have the same roles, then one could imagine that the enforcement and the application of fines may be different.
And we should seek
Yeah.
consistency on that
Yeah,
at least, so I
exactly.
agree.
Right.
Okay, so I can pose that to council and the powers that be. And I think we do have plenty of time to make sure we answer that before we vote on it, so. Okay.
I just hate to see that people getting penalized because they were not.
Littleton's pretty good about that, but I think we can,
You
we can
understand
bring,
what-
I know what you're saying, I think
We're
everybody
here
would
to
agree.
protect our people too, not to install laws and regulations and that people not aware of it. All right.
Solid waste regulations, you want to put those off? Let's hold off, since we're a little bit over time, so. Call to order the hearing of Lot 2 on Concord Drive, Foresight Engineering, you folks here, come on up.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Scott Hayes, Foresight Engineering. I have the green
great.
receipts. And also, Jim called me the other day with a couple of small changes, so.
Okay.
That were revised plan as well. So, this is Lot 2, Concord Drive. It's a subdivision of number 15. Concord Drive is a house. Over here, it's number 15. It's a large tract of land that's mostly wet, with the exception of some upland area adjacent to Concord Drive, and then where the existing dwelling is.
How many acres?
It's, well, no, it's a subdivision.
Okay.
So it's about 6.5 total, I believe. But it's, it's, again, the wetlands are shown here in green. So it's largely wet. There's some upland adjacent to the road. We were able to design a septic system for 3 bedrooms adjacent to the lot line over here, meeting the 50-foot wetland setback. We incorporated a concrete block retaining wall about 2 feet off that property line. There's a stone wall there. And there's this wall shown in brown on the plan here.
More than 10 feet or 10 feet?
Well, the outside face of the wall is 2 feet off the property line.
Yeah.
The block is about 24 inches deep.
Okay.
And then off the back of the block, it's 10 feet to the
Okay.
nearest point of the septic
Okay,
system.
you okay then?
Yeah. So the wall, it's a concrete block wall. It's an engineered block. It's got a textured face. It sort of looks like a large granite block. They're about 4 by 1.5 feet high. They kind of go together like brickwork. And they have a nice kind of textured rough stone finish to them. And they're embedded in the grade. And then on the back, we put a poly barrier to make it impermeable. And that's pretty much it. We've got
Exactly design.
four trenches, septic tank, pump chamber, house, drive.
You got no problem. I don't think you have any problem, right? You did a good job.
So, so you're 10 feet within this line here?
So there's sort of remains of a stone wall here. It's just the lot line. The face of the wall is 2 feet.
Okay.
in.
What's on the other side?
The backyard of 324 Harwood Ave. So there's a house up here, and this is pretty much the entire. It's just the backyard. It's all
Okay.
kind of wide open lawn. And all the drainage runs, away from Concord Drive toward the wetlands. Nothing really being directed or discharged to any abutting properties. Just kind of runs to here. This is a big low spot. It kind of runs through the back of along Concord Drive.
So the retaining wall is 2 feet?
Yeah, it varies. I mean, at its highest point,
Yeah.
at the highest point is about here, which is where it starts to taper back down to grade and catch up with the breakout. But at that point, it's about 4 feet. And then it tapers this way to 2 to 0, and then it drops off pretty quickly. Steps down following the 3-to-1 slope to grade here. So that's the highest point at about 4.
No? Can I make a motion on that?
Bill, you have any questions, concerns?
No.
Ed?
I'm pretty good.
Go for it, Jim.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the system.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And you got a stamp and
So
everything?
what exactly is the,
Well,
there's a,
doesn't say here.
Regulation
Variance, right?
2023, it's,
20.
the way
It doesn't say,
the regulation's written, it just says you have to have a hearing. It doesn't say that it's
Okay.
prohibited, so it
Yeah.
wouldn't technically be a variance, right?
Well,
It
it
requires us to
falls
notify-
under 27
Yeah.
is
Regulation
anything within
27.
10 feet of a lot line, so it sort of circles.
So
But
you're-
it is confusing, though.
Yeah, but nevertheless, you...
So because the retaining wall is within 10 feet of the lot line? That's what we're...
Placement of fill.
Yeah,
Or-
placement
Right,
of
and
fence.
and
Fill
we
is
will
instead
be
of
the
retaining
fill,
wall.
right. Okay, all right. So it is a
So
very,
23 requires you to notify the abutters, but 27 is the fill within 10 feet of the lot line.
do we have any butters, sir? No? Okay.
have the abutters been notified?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
There's a stamp and everything.
Okay.
So it would be a variance to regulation 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is confusing.
That's good. That's good date there.
Who seconded that?
The stamp.
I second.
Okay.
I can see it.
January 4th, 2016.
Okay, January 4th, 2016.
Revised,
Revised?
3/4/16.
3/4/16.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, we're a couple minutes early on 25 Westchester. You want to talk about the solid waste regulations?
Sure, if you want to.
Do we have a copy? So what do we need to do? Do we need just a motion to put them into effect, or?
Well, Jim, that meeting we didn't have. I think Jim just wanted to kind of go through, and he thought that a lot of the stuff in there could be condensed down and sort of simplify it to start it.
I wasn't involved with the drafting of those, but others were. If they were comfortable with them, I...
What is this one here? Is it here?
I mean, they've already been adopted. The ones that I handed out are already in effect.
So what are you
They just-
looking for from us? Just approval?
Basically, we're supposed to be notifying all these haulers that they're supposed to be paying this fee, and who's going to do that?
So
Because-
Jim would like to simplify it and go through the regs again,
Yeah.
right? Are folks comfortable with that, or would you prefer to?
On the 4th of February, he told me he was fine with, he told me he was okay with them. So was that since the 4th of February, recently? He told you?
It was at whatever meeting we didn't have a
Well,
quorum.
I'll tell you what,
Oh, the
they haven't been
16th,
enforced
okay.
within 2 years and with no, so I think we can wait till the next meeting.
Yeah.
Let's clarify what Jim would like to do and what his recommendation.
Yeah.
Because basically, the way they're written is, we're supposed to be sending these letters out and charging people this and that, and
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
And Jim was
I
gonna start
don't know how
writing
I
down
would even
names of
know who
haulers
wrote-
and
yeah.
stuff, so.
And are
Okay.
these are updated regulations?
They were adopted, Bill, in 2012, maybe?
Oh, so
I was gonna say
2013?
3 years ago.
So it's what we have.
2013.
Right,
There's
and
no-
they are in
They've been
effect,
into
they
effect.
just haven't,
And nobody
just
missed
really
them.
haven't done anything with them.
No one missed them. That's for
I
sure.
did check with Jim, because my question was whether we needed him if nobody had noticed in 2 years, and he basically said at least some provisions of the law required the town to have some regulations on this, so there is some validity to
So
have.
they're in the binder. I can review that.
Are they in the binder? Yeah, so, and,
All right, it was, okay.
okay. Hey, Ann, is Bulkley Road, I'm glad I don't live there, because I can't pronounce that word very well. There, it's on Jim's report, but it's not on our agendas, so,
6, Bulkley Road?
Buckley
It's
Road's
7:45.
7:45.
oh, 7:45, okay. I was listening to you, Gino.
I gave you the right, I told you.
All right, so it's 7:30 now, or close enough to it, so I'd like to open the hearing for 25 Westchester.
I think how you listen.
Good evening. I'm Gary Shepard from David Ross Associates. Shall I begin?
Yes,
Sure.
All right, fairly straightforward repair here. There's an existing house here at 25 Westchester, 4-bedroom house. high groundwater, as is common down there, and a moderately slow perk rate. Fortunately, the former owners of this house picked up a couple of extra lots to the side, which gave them some room to do a repair. Otherwise, it would have been a real tough situation to squeeze a septic system in here. The existing system is over here. It's obviously in groundwater, so it's would fail an inspection. We tested over here in the new system. It's almost completely flat lot, and this is where we're proposing the new system. We are proposing a Presby Enviro septic system. The reason we're doing that is because obviously they have a smaller footprint than a conventional system, so it fits in a little bit better and allows us to keep the fill on the lot without having any retaining walls or other extraordinary means to do that. There are a couple of variances that we need in order to make this work. The first one is 15.405I N, and that's the reduction of the offset between the bottom of the system and high groundwater. We're asking for a reduction from 4 feet to 3 feet. This is a Presby, and Presby is allowed to have a 2-foot reduction. We're only asking for a 1 foot because that's what it takes to keep the fill on.
You're so
on the lot.
generous.
Well, it's generous of you to consider even one. The second variance is 405IJ, which is the reduction in the separation between the inlet and outlet of the septic tank and the high groundwater table. Obviously, the tanks are in high groundwater, and so they'll be grounded and everything, but we need that variance. As for the local regulations, there are 2 variances that we need. The first is that the maximum percolation rate allowed on a lot of less than 30,000 square feet is 30 minutes per inch. Our perk rate was 39 minutes an inch, and the lot is only 0.46, which is what, 18,000, about 20,000 square feet. So we don't meet that requirement. And then the final one is requirement that there's no fill within 10 feet of a property line, and we're asking for a reduction 4 to 8 feet within a property line. And again, that's just to keep it on the lot and to keep our fill away from the house, the driveway, and the garage. Again, fairly straightforward repair
water?
situation.
Yeah,
Town water, yep. Town water, yeah. So that's it, and I'll turn it over to you for any other questions you might have.
So Jim basically said he's not worried about the surface runoff to the abutters for a variety of reasons. The area is served by town water, and there's no increase in design sewage flow for the property. So essentially, this will be better than what's there now, no matter what, right?
Absolutely, and one of the things to keep in mind too is it's grass now, and it'll be grass afterwards, so it's not like we're paving it, so we won't be generating any new runoff, and most of it should still soak into the ground as it does today.
Any questions or concerns?
So the perk, some of this is just my own education. But, so the perk rate doesn't meet regulations, you said,
It meets Title V
It
regulations.
meets Title V, but
But
not local.
Littleton has a local regulation saying that on a small lot,
Right,
you're supposed to be 30 minutes or less.
right.
That's why they asking for the variance for that.
Yes, yep. And how do we mitigate that? How are we mitigating that there's not going to be an issue? I mean, just,
How do we mitigate that? We don't really mitigate it. What that regulation is intended to do, in my opinion, would be to prevent people from coming in and building gigantic houses on these tiny lots with lousy perk rates. In this situation, we already have a house here, and it already has a septic system, and the septic system is already in groundwater. And so what we're doing is going to significantly improve the existing conditions that are out there today.
okay.
So we'd look at it a little different for an existing versus a new system.
Right, okay, all right.
And it's an improvement over what's there now,
Yep,
so.
yep, okay, good. That's helpful. All right. No other questions?
No other questions?
All right, somebody with good eyesight want to make a motion? You can read upside down, it's very impressive, by the way.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, are you the abutter on this one?
I am.
Okay, please, any concerns or questions, I'm sorry.
Not, I was curious as to what the plan was, but I'm satisfied with
Okay,
it.
do you have any questions? That's part of why we do this, is so everybody, we can't please everybody, but we at least try to answer their questions.
Well, I think the explanation sounded reasonable to me.
Well, just for your sake, what I'll read part of it that I think is pertinent to you from the health agency. I expect here the potential effects of surface runoff to the abutters to be minimal. One abutter has a wall along the property line, and this lot slopes back on itself. So that's one of the things we're concerned about with abutters is, that you're not going to shift a bunch of water into their backyard and basement.
That was my concern, because my property abutting is next to it on Westchester
Right.
Road.
Yeah.
At that location, it is more or less a vacant lot.
Right.
It backs onto my house, which is on Suffolk on the other side. And it is a low location. There is water collection there, especially in the spring
Right.
when melt happens.
Right.
But as long as it's not going to exacerbate my existing water problems,
Yeah.
I don't have any problem.
That's the assessment of our health agent who's been out there, so.
Thank you.
I'll
And
take
I
your word for it.
apologize, I didn't ask you before, I didn't.
No problem.
Thank you. We all set, I'm all set.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion, but I gotta.
He even highlighted for you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the plan for 25 Westchester Road in Littleton, dated 3/1/16. We need local upgrade approval for 15405-1H reduction, offset from the bottom of the soil absorption system to seasonal high groundwater from 4 feet to 3 feet. 405-1J, reduction of the separation between inlet and outlet tees and high groundwater to be less than 12 inches. And local variance request 5A, maximum percolation rate allowed on a lot of 30,000 square feet or less is 30 minutes an inch. Proposed is 39 minutes an inch. And regulation 20, no portion of a fill requirement shall be within 10 feet of a property line. Proposed will be 8 feet of the property line.
I second that.
Second.
Second already?
Wow.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now Buckley is, but that's in 10 minutes, so what do you, should we?
You can sign some.
I have a MRC thing that I didn't do earlier.
Hit us with the NRC thing.
With bated breath. Okay, Wednesday at 7 PM at the Littleton Fire Department. All volunteers who are interested in volunteering for the Littleton Volunteer Corps or the CERT or the MRC component can register on Mass Response. That will be 7 PM, Littleton Fire Department. This Wednesday, the 9th of March.
And you get really cool jackets from our.
What time?
That's right, we approved the.
Hey, what time is gonna be at?
7 PM, but I don't know if the jackets are in yet. I don't know.
Okay.
And what are the, what are the roles that you volunteer for this sorts of things?
Medical Reserve Corps primarily helps if there was an emergency dispensing site that we needed in town for some kind of outbreak. Hepatitis A at a restaurant, if there was some biologic going on, something
Zombies.
like that. So
Zombies.
there's
So
certain,
we would,
so there's certain drills and certain protocols that they would play out. Okay. The other piece is CERT, Community Emergency Response Team. There are a bunch of power lines down. The fire department needs help and assistance with this, that, or 15 other things, digging out the hydrants, making sure if we're in a really cold spell, all elderly neighbors are okay. That's a CERT function.
okay. And this is the only opportunity for?
It's a training on how to register yourself on Mass Response, so that you can volunteer with the town, or volunteer with Region 4A, or volunteer across the state. You get to
Sounds like a Boy Scout thing, Brock, what do you think?
kind of is.
Only if we were fighting zombies.
Hello.
Or stormtroopers. Stormtroopers are coming.
Thank God for water.
And are you on that? Yeah, you on that? Is that? Or,
Yes,
Yeah.
I do currently. I started the group, developed the plans, created the drills, ran the drills, did the recruiting, did it for years.
Have they ever been deployed?
Yes. Oh, yeah, a number of times. 2008, 2009, during the H1N1 clinics, during the ice storms of 2008, Irene 2012, the Halloween storms 2000 and whatever it was. warming, cooling centers in the summer. Oh, yeah, probably 6 to 8 times. So it's proven to be really helpful. The emergency response loves us because we help make their job easier.
Okay.
You know.
So it's potentially like at shelters, it's handing out
Yes, yeah.
things, blankets.
It's running the shelters, it's helping them so they can focus.
It'd be,
Yeah, and we use the Boy Scouts in the drills to kind of run through when we're doing EDS or the sheltering drill.
I remember that.
Where
that
we
request
run,
coming out. Okay.
yeah, we run
Boy
the
Scouts,
Boy Scouts through, and we give them all kinds of great roles, and they do a great job.
But it's not a search and rescue or things like that are not part of this.
Not that I know of at the point.
They
at
might
the
call
present
on them
time.
for search, but the rescue, they call on the guys trained up.
Yeah.
Does Mass have a?
It depends on what's needed to be
have
searched.
actual Search, does Massachusetts have search and rescue
Yeah.
groups?
Different ones.
Yep.
This first time you ever break for 5 minutes.
Time to use the facilities is now, Gina.
We're just having this discussion of like how to space agenda time. Because when I give it 15 minutes, they all go like this. When I give them 10 minutes, they all like,
We can give the engineers
These law of schedule trouble, no matter what you do, it's
just to take up time.
I noticed that
Yeah, so
some
the
towns
options are you
have
sit and wait.
one time down and they just list all their public hearings.
The thing that's a disaster about that is, you show up at 6:30 and you don't get on until 10.
And you have your room full of butters and they're all angry.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We're not that bad, but we can give you a harder time and drag it on if you want.
I want to go home.
And you're here to,
For Boy Scouts.
for Boy Scouts.
That's my son,
Oh,
Brock.
that's your son,
Yes.
okay. Hi, Brock.
It's for a merit badge to sit in on
But he's not sleeping, can you imagine
Ah.
that?
He actually came to the front row.
Oh, that's good.
only because the chairs are more comfortable.
More room to stretch out, yeah.
Maybe we should put the uncomfortable
He's
chairs.
figuring this out pretty quick,
Yes,
you
he
know?
is. Oh, he's-
We do have a vacancy coming.
School comes first, tell him. School comes first.
So what grade are you in?
7th?
At middle school?
Yeah.
Do you like the middle school?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Who's your favorite teacher?
You're on TV.
Yeah, it's getting
Okay, then,
recorded.
but this is part of your community service or whatever.
That's it. That's,
So pick one who lives in Littleton.
no,
That's right.
just say all are nice.
They're all fabulous.
Oh,
Good answer.
So what's your favorite subject? Let me ask it that way.
Probably math or art.
Hmm,
He wants to be an engineer.
okay, gee.
Draw a roller coaster. I think he wants to design coasters. Just probably whatever
Septic
engineer.
systems are far more interesting.
Yeah, I think it's probably whatever engineering student wants to do, is design roller coasters, and then they go into.
Not to, are any of you roller coaster riders? I'm going to ruin your roller coaster experience for the rest of your lives if I am. You know how you're standing in line, especially at these old wooden roller coasters, and it looks like they're about to fall down, there's boards flapping all over the place and
They are.
everything. I read an article by this designer, premier wooden roller coaster designer. That's a design point, is they want to make it look like it's about to fall down, yet being strong.
You're good at it.
Yes.
Yeah. So they put extra boards and stuff in and forget to connect them, and so they flap around and all kinds of stuff like that.
You obviously never went to Rocky Point when you were a kid, because I think those were legitimate structural boards that were flapping around.
One of the ones he designed was the one at Rocky Point, the big wooden one way in the back there. That's the biggest wooden roller coaster in the world. That was one of his babies.
I don't think that was effects, I wrote it. I do hear they have there was one they designed and people were breaking their necks on it.
oh, yeah.
That's not good.
So the
Shut it down.
one
So
of
if you're
the-
an engineer, you get a ride first, Brock.
well, that's what I told him. I said designing's okay. You don't want to be the tester,
Right.
right?
It's what graduate students are for.
That's right. Well, a couple of years ago at a coaster in Six Flags, it was one that had the loops, which I typically love. It coming out of that loop and over, And my harness came free.
Oh
So
my
the only
God.
thing holding it was the safety belt. But that harness comes out, and now as it's whipping me around, I'm coming off the seat,
Oh,
and I'm
wow.
holding onto that harness for all I can.
Wow.
And I told him when I got off, and he, oh, okay.
That's it?
Next person went in.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my
I'm like,
goodness.
it clicked, and then as soon as it got any pressure, it
Oh, wow.
unclicked.
Came off on it.
Seasonal helps, always.
Yes, it is.
All right.
That's scary. My daughter loves roller coasters.
We may need a bylaw, but anyway. So it's 7:45, so I'd open the hearing for 6 Bulkley Road.
Once again, for the record, I'm Gary Shepard from Ross Associates, on behalf of the estate of Charlotte Hart. Obviously, this is an estate, so it failed the Title V inspection and requires an upgrade. This is the second, if you start to go down Bulkley, it's the second house on the left, but backs up against Route 2 right here. The existing system is here in the front. The initial thing that the engineer who was working on this did was he went back and did a couple of test holes here in the back and hit shallow depth to ledge in both of these. He then also looked over here and noticed that there was rock outcroppings, ledge outcroppings along here. So these sites were not really suitable for a septic system, and this is not suitable for a septic system either by virtue
You
of
have to
the,
go up there.
so this is where he had to go. So he came up here, got decent depth here, decent soil, good perk rates, but fairly high groundwater, so it is a mounded system. Has designed a conventional bed, which is fairly efficient in space, and the house is going to be replumbed and come out to the two-compartment tank and then to the bed. The one variance that we're asking for here is a reduction in offset to groundwater of 1 foot. The reason we're doing that is when we do that, we can do this as a gravity system. If we don't get the 1 foot reduction, we would have to put a pump chamber in. And as you know, when you have ice storms and things like that, as remarkable as Littleton Electric is, we can have power outages for extended periods of time.
Gravity doesn't break.
Gravity continues to work, so we think that's a preferable situation if we can. So that's the one variance that we're requesting, and turn it over to you for questions.
I don't have a problem with it.
So just for the record, Jim is comfortable with this. Town water, Rose leaching area is 4 feet above the seasonal high water table. It's an existing system
should
that
have
we're
4 feet
replacing, so
above
it's
it.
definitely going to be better.
Yeah. How much land you got there?
It is 1 acre even,
Lucked out.
1.00, you get it. There are some wetlands too, but they're,
Yeah,
the buffer zone's like 100 feet away, just barely next to the
True
property, so-
runoff problem.
Exactly, yeah.
Any questions, concerns?
Nope.
Do we have a motion?
I'll do the motion.
The highlight of the last one, maybe.
Yeah, well, this was. I'll speak to him. I'll speak to him tomorrow.
Come to see it. You give him a-
He did put nice trees in there.
He did a nice job.
Where is the, yeah, there's the date. Where is?
He was on at 6:30 in Groton.
Here?
Or 7:30 in Groton. I said, you can still get there on time.
Okay, I would like to make, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the variances for the plans dated February 11th, 2016 for 6 Bulkley Road. Oh, there we go, Littleton, Mass. The variance requests a local upgrade approval of 15.405 IH. The approval authority may reduce request, or the required 5-foot separation between the bottom of the soil absorption system and the high groundwater to 4 feet from 5 foot.
Do we have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
All in favor, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Vote. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary.
Yeah, they're being really nice.
Hi, how you doing? Good. So this is continued discussion on fast ranks, and I have to apologize, I'm not sure as chair, I've been really kind of managing this discussion as well as I could. I'm going to try to do a little bit better tonight and start off with a couple things. I did stop by today and talk to some of the folks on the planning board, and whether you go in as a mobile unit with the variances or a fixed unit with variances, you're still going to have to do site plan review, and you're still going to have to go to the ZBA as a takeout. So you're still going to need those variances no matter what we do. And I just want to make sure that was clear.
Well, it wasn't clear through the building department, through Roland as of now.
Roland was part of the discussion I had today, and
And I
there's
think that-
unanimity was that you got to do the site plan review.
I think I'm sure that did happen. I think that we had very much an evolving conversation. I think that you want to run this meeting, so I'm not trying to do that.
Everybody else gets to talk, I'm just trying to help organize a little bit better, because we've
Okay.
kind of been all over the place.
So I think maybe what I should do is to give a brief introduction from the start and see where you
Well,
are.
I do want to be clear,
Oh, yeah.
that's the expectation of this board and the other boards as well, that there will be a site plan review and there will be variances for takeout.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
The other thing I will ask, and we can do this in whatever order you want, I think it would be helpful to this board, I mean, from my perspective, I deal with a lot of situations where people come up with something innovative or different that doesn't quite meet the regulations. I also come up with situations where, and in those cases, I've always been an advocate for flexibility. I've also come up with situations where folks are either trying to do something cheaper than everybody else has done by following the regulations, or they're trying to get around some other requirement. And what I'd ask is, can you guys explain exactly why you're not just doing a fixed site or a mobile site? That would be, I think, helpful to review that for the board.
Okay. That actually probably fits into where our beginning of our discussion is that we decided to do a mobile location because our trailer really is a mobile trailer. In addition, the original discussions that AJ is not here tonight and Brian had with Roland said that if it's a mobile cart, we really don't care from a planning standpoint, as long as you're going to be relocating your cart on a daily basis, we don't have an objection or we don't have jurisdiction. We're not going to look into this. So we said, great. So
I think that's true if it moves daily, but that's not what you're proposing.
Yes, okay. And actually, our discussion from my side was that we heard that if it's movable, we're going to be okay with that. And what I frankly anticipated doing is doing some at least minimal site plan approval to say that, look, this is your ingress, this is your egress. We're never going to be McDonald's, but there's no reason why we can't have an in lane and an out lane and some striped parking or just some kind of general flow. It's a flat site that, as a kid growing up in Littleton,
Right, and the folks I spoke to, I mean, I've been to some site plan reviews, whether you're doing, a farm stand or a mall, it's all the same, and what they indicated today was that it's tailored to the site, and they didn't expect it to be exhaustive, but if it was, even if it was on wheels, if it was gonna stay there, you would be required to have a site plan review.
Right, okay, so then kind of what happened is that we said, okay, if it's gonna be mobile, then let's make it mobile. And after the initial discussions with Roland, and feel free to chime in as if I miss anything, is that they said, okay, great, we can go ahead and open up. So what my clients did is they retrofitted an existing trailer that they had to make it into a hot dog cart. Didn't contact Neshoba Board of Health, did not contact you guys.
No, we did.
Well, you put it up and then you contacted them.
No,
Okay.
we contacted them and got the list of things we were supposed to.
Oh, right, okay.
14
For-
articles.
14 articles for but I also correct me so what they did is, we said, okay, we have a right to be able to do this by right, so long as we comply with your 14 requirements. So things that they did in the planning process, for instance, is they created 3-bay sinks, they created, they made it compliant with their mobile food cart regulations. We did not think that it was going to require a hearing so long as we complied with all of the mobile food cart requirements, and also, as Gino has pointed out, and as Bill has said as well, is that there's another hot dog stand in town, so we thought, okay, we'll follow that plan, and they went to open, they got approached by the Neshoba Board of Health and said, what the hell are you guys doing, kind of thing, and we said, okay, we're following the regulations. I thought we were 100% compliant. Well, we weren't. They asked us to go to this board to ask for the variances that we had put together in my previous correspondence, and which I reiterated again last week. So we're really a hybrid type operation. And what I did is I had a discussion with Mr. Mitchell last week and said that, okay, let's look at this from two different ways. That if you were a fixed location, what do you need variances from? Whereas if you were a mobile cart, what do you need variances from? I read the CMRs. The CMRs have a link to federal legislation, and the where we don't comply if we are a full-time restaurant is primarily in our availability of two things, is that our bathroom facilities are not on site. They are in an adjacent property. We've previously submitted a letter that said that we have the access to those bathroom facilities, and there's in the federal regulations, there's things that we would be more than willing to do, like making sure that if you have any dust on the outside of your parking lot, that you keep that maintained. There's regulations relative to lighting and things like that, but we really comply with all of them, with the exception of the bathroom.
What about septic? That would seem to be the other one.
Well, that would be the bathroom and the septic.
Well,
right, they could be separate.
Two
I guess.
things, you've got the
Yes, right,
septic
right,
and you've
yes,
got
correct.
on-site versus neighbors. So
Correct.
those to me and the fixed are the two things that are probably the
are
largest challenges as far as variances go. Yeah.
Correct. And they also, that we, if we're a fixed location, if we have menu items that are on the menu for more than 30 days, we have to have calorie disclosure requirements. I think that might be a variance, but it's not a major impediment. So what my clients came to me and said, well, we really, we are willing to do whatever the Board of Health and the Neshoba Board of Health would request of us to do to be compliant. And we do have an initial letter from Roland that says that you can open up without the need for variances. And I understand that if we are going to be truly, or for all intents and purposes, a thing that doesn't move, that we do need to go back to the board. So my thoughts were, is that what is the public health issues that we can't address? So we are going to be having town water. We have a contract for cleaning, which I've
So I do have one question before we go on. So the question was, it's fixed. You're not going to be moving this thing, right, in any degree of frequency?
Correct. We have the capacity to move it,
Right.
and we could move it every night.
So I guess my question is, and it's kind of the first one for us to consider, is why don't you just build a fixed stand?
I think that our need for variances are the same. Our original goal was to not go through site plan approval, not have to go hire David Ross's office to do a survey of the property, to have the ability that if they have an opportunity to, Neshoba Valley has some big events during the course of the summer, or some other festivals, that we have a really nice hot dog cart. Our goal is not to go from ever to go to job site to be
Understood.
A food truck, But it might be to say that, okay, there's a big event somewhere in Westford, Littleton, wherever, during the
Right.
course of the weekend, and we will end up relocating for, or we'll mobilize for that.
See, that I can buy. Getting around site plan and
day.
review, I'm not sure we want to offer variances to let you guys do that. I'm not sure
We're
that's the
not
intent of
looking,
these.
and I think that the intent was to have it be mobile. What is the definition of mobile? If we are putting our car up on blocks, it's fixed. We should go through site plan approval. And I think my thoughts were that, look, our projected car trips, our vehicle trips are going to be, from a planning standpoint, next to non-existent. We'll have 10 people at the most. We have a flat lot. We can accomplish those goals with site plan approval. Originally, my client spent a considerable amount of money on this food truck idea, but and they're not willing to let that go aside, that if they weren't able to operate on this location, they probably would mobilize, like I said, for Neshoba Valley-esque events, or to pick on something that's a local name. So they would use it, but they really want to be able to have an everyday presence. And originally, they said, okay, well, fine, we'll establish a relationship with, and they did, with Neshoba Garages.
There's some issues with the water there, I was told today, so that really,
Okay.
that wouldn't be in a...
Well, we didn't know that, so they actually did go forward and say that, okay, well, we have the potential to do that, but what we wanted to do is, we truly wanted to be honest with the board to say, look, our intention is not to go there every night. We want to have everything on site. We want to have the ability for the health agents to we're an open book. We're going to be a clean operation. We're going to serve exactly what we're allowed to serve and nothing more. And we'll have inspections whenever you want them to be, however you want them to be. We're committed to making sure that things are safe. And I think collectively, between my clients and myself, we've actually learned a lot. And through this process, we've had the Chipotle food scare and, the E. coli thing, which became a national news story based out of Boston. So we really do care. We're longtime Littleton guys. We want to make this thing work, but we're really not a fixed location. Not saying that we're trying to avoid site plan approval, and we're not going to be a mobile location that we're moving every day. So I think that if I become a fixed location, I'm exchanging one set of requests for waivers
So
for
which requirement if you have the option of being fixed or mobile, which one would necessitate more variances?
We want to be mobile.
I think.
I know you
that-
want to be mobile, but I think we would probably lean towards whichever designation required fewer variances,
I
because
think
you're in between,
I
so.
really think that if you look at the federal regulations for outdoor eating facilities, they have a whole bunch of stuff on lighting, bug lights, a whole bunch of requirements that are more applicable to a place like Kimball's.
Yeah, but you're not going to have seating here anyhow, right?
No, we're not. So, but you asked me what I need more variances for. I actually think that it's more variances for a fixed location than a mobile location. I don't think that either one of them are particularly meaningful to our specific operation. I think we're making a relatively big, we're potentially making a planning board ask, but we're not making a big Board of Health leap one way or the other. I think that as I said before, that we're right down the street from the Neshoba Board of Health. You're on the way to Town Hall when Jim comes here twice a week.
That's not really, we just want to make sure it's done right beforehand.
Oh, it is, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, what you're...
So for a fixed location, you basically, from us, you would need a variance with a bathroom and basically a lack of a septic, because you can use a holding tank, right?
Yes.
They've already said they can do town water there.
Okay.
So for a mobile, you would need the bathroom.
And, but also, well, just in full disclosure, though, there's these lighting requirements, there are bug light things, there are dust controls, there are actually a whole number of regulations, which I believe that we are going to end up being compliant with, but I don't really see us opening at night where we're going to require.
So before us,
things
if
like
you were
that.
to do a mobile, you had 4 variances, if I recall, correct?
I listed, yes.
So you had the bathroom and the septic are still an issue, I believe. And then you had the cleaning every night, and there was a 4th one. I
We
believe.
are cleaning every night.
I know, but the issue is if you're
Where?
mobile, the
It's
regulations say you have to
an-
take it off-site
correct.
to a central location, you want to
Correct.
clean it on-site.
Correct.
And the variance that you will not be using a home site that's fully in compliance with 590. That's a big one.
Yes.
Because that's the
But-
mobile
but-
system.
But what we've done for that is that some of the issues that come up with that, with the reason why I believe that is designed for is things like having a 3-bay sink. What we've tried to do in designing, or what they have done in designing this hot dog stand is to make it as easily washable and cleanable on an off-site basis, and that we didn't need that fixed location in order to keep everything cleaned.
But it's more than that. It's
So
it's-
my understanding was you said that you're going to have a cleaning service come in nightly to
That's-
sanitize it.
Right.
This is
Whether you
where?
took it to another location or it was done here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about cleaning though, I'm talking about storage of foods.
Right.
Weren't you limiting yourself to hot dogs at first? Correct.
There's a whole gamut of things that fixed sites are required, because fixed sites are the only sites that are allowed to have a license permit for a mobile entity. That hot dog stand you're referring to out at Gary's, the only reason why they can operate is because they have a home-based food establishment that's fully in compliant with 590, and that's Gary's stand when it's open.
That site's
It ha-
not relevant to
it-
this.
It
That
has
can't be
a,
going into
it
this.
has a permit. Well, actually,
We're not going to compare to the other site.
Bridget Braley, who is the food district food inspector, believes that that's an important piece here. So that's how the whole setup in the regulations, it starts off and it tells you.
If I recall,
In the
though,
regulation.
Ken, there's an exemption for hot dogs in that, though, right?
For what?
Hot dogs.
That they don't have to be in a food cart, or they don't have to be in
That you
a...
don't need the home-based.
No, the whole mobile system is set up that there is a home base regardless.
But the home-based
So-
rolled up to hot dogs, I believe, is limited to cleaning the truck, sanitizing the truck nightly.
That's not what I understand, but that's something maybe you could talk to Bridget Braley about.
Well, I think it says
Yeah.
food preparation. I think you're right.
Any kind of food preparation,
Food
anything.
preparation and cleaning and sanitizing.
Yeah.
And
But there will be
So,
no food preparation.
but you have food that you'll store, you'll have
served
things that
off-site.
you'll store on site that are supposed to be taken off-site and refrigerated properly.
The,
And the other
So what-
issue
I-
is the
I'm not
tight
trying to-
tank, is the tight tank stuff for the wastewater.
correct.
So there's a lot of stuff there. It's not just one or two things, and that's what I wanted to add.
That's fine. But I guess our whole central argument is that public health is not threatened any greater if we have a fixed location or if we are mobile on a daily basis because of the way that we've designed our truck. That's what our position is, and they put a lot of effort into doing that. One of the things that we've done is that we've agreed to install a town water, so we're going to have a active source of water. Originally, when we came to you, since we were mobile, we were going to be using 5-gallon Poland Springs buckets. We're not going to be doing that. We have a source of hot water. We have a source of refrigeration that's going to be stayed in a fixed location with circuit breakers and the same kind of systems that you would have if you were associated with.
So you're going to meet and exceed whatever that home site would be.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
right down to the plumbing. We plumbed it like a restaurant.
So you're going to plumb it.
No, we plumbed the inside like a restaurant, with the right metal that was required in
right.
every restaurant that you're supposed to have in town.
But you say
But you're still going to
mobile.
have a tight tank.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Because
tight
we-
tank is one of the variances we need to consider.
Right, and I have no idea what they have for an existing septic system at Ronsley's, but our operation certainly doesn't justify building a $30,000 septic system.
So if you're going to protect, and I'm just trying to understand this, if you're going to protect the public's health, the same way that the federal regs and the local regs do, state regs, why not just get a permit for a mobile, and then you can be all set?
And move it every night. So the problem with that is that my two clients both own businesses here in Littleton. Their goal is to supervise this project on a daily basis, but have at least a full-time employee. And that full-time employee is not necessarily going to be a truck driver. And my clients don't want to have the need to drive to a fixed location, and our location had been because of relationships with.
And it may be acceptable, but one of the things I heard today, there's some issues with, they're limited on how much they can discharge from Neshoba Garage. So adding
The
to
Neshoba
that.
Garage already has some septic issues that are
Okay, so we didn't know that,
conditioned by the
and
board.
in our, frankly, my thoughts and from
You're
the
trying to
mobile
avoid that
truck
anyway,
stand,
right?
well, yes, but from the mobile truck standpoint, was I would still be looking, I wouldn't be looking to necessarily dump our waste into Neshoba Garage. That wasn't something
In the
that I
beginning-
had thought,
the beginning-
that wasn't something that I had thought about. We have signed a contract with a local septic hauler to deal with our waste, and that was always something that we were going to do. So to answer your question, which I'm not trying to circle around, is that what our goal was to say is that what really is our difference between if we're going to be in a fixed location on a daily basis, serving what we're planning on serving, which is not cream-based, it's not sour cream, it's not
Potentially
clam
hazardous
chowders,
foods.
it's nothing that is potentially a food source that's scary. We're going to be able to have knowledge of everywhere where our food is coming from. It's all going to be prepackaged stuff. We're going to be buying stuff from the same vendors.
And you
What
want
are
to
you- what are you serving?
refrigerate it too, right?
What are you
You're gonna
serving? Is
refrigerate
it just hot
Yeah.
dogs at this point and prepackaged foods?
Correct.
Right inside the unit.
All right,
So there's no soups at this point?
No.
Then you have to
No.
get a variance also for how you store it, because in the regs, they require that you store off-site if you're mobile.
So that's part of the central location. You've got a place you can clean it, you've got a place where you store your food, it's got proper refrigeration.
And
So my
everything
understanding
gets
is,
dumped out,
you've done the
sanitized.
plumbing, you've done the refrigeration, so it'd be equivalent to fixed. Storage, you would have to adjust that as well.
And also the mobility will be like you say, he says 110, you say another, like mobility. Mobility means move everything every day for that purpose, just to have it clean, they move it back, with some exception when they have some holiday or something to move it. Am I correct? And then you go back to the
I think what
same.
they're saying, Gino, is they feel they shouldn't have to move it every night, they can meet or exceed whatever the standards would be for that fixed location.
But if
so
they want to go
wouldn't
to
be-
Westford, they can do
But they'd
that.
still like the ability to go to the
Right,
ski area
right.
for the
And I
brew
don't think
fest
it
or
should be
something
no
like that.
problem, because as long they maintain that cleanliness of the, okay, as long as.
So how do you plan to clean?
so actually, before we move on to there, I'd actually like a clarification on this letter. So this actually says that you plan to provide the following foods: single-service prepackaged hot soups that are not cream-based.
Not true.
Just let me read.
Yeah.
Single-service, because I've heard two different things, and they're at odds with
Yes.
this letter. You plan to provide the following foods: single-service pre-packed hot soups that are not cream-based, prepared pulled beef, individually packed chips, sausage, hot dogs, baked beans. Is that the plan? Because I just heard that you were only going to do
That
sausage.
was
and
the
hot dogs.
original plan, but.
Okay, well, this
Okay, so
letter
that's
is,
my-
this
that's
letter is
my
dated
letter.
March
Yeah.
1st.
And what we had represented to the
Pulled
board
beef.
from, hold on, to the last time we were here, is that what we're willing to do, or what we would like to do, is originally open up with just hot dogs and come back to the board and say that we may want to serve additional food. So to the
So
extent
that's
that-
the second point I want to address then, is what's the decision tree? How do we, so you guys just start out with the hot dogs and sausage, and then you come back and ask, and have a plan to now offer more things, how do we assess that?
No,
What's the
no,
decision tree?
We changed the whole menu to be.
Well, you just said you'd come back.
Which is it, guys?
No, we changed the menu. The menu is hot dogs. I actually took your suggestion on the single-serving soups the last time we met with you.
So you have no plans at all to go beyond hot dogs and single-serving soups?
Anything single-serving soups, yeah. Like, we wouldn't get a big vat, because I think you brought up a good point.
Well, the requirements are if you brought a vat in, you'd have to dispose of it every day and bring it
That's
in
right,
every day,
yeah.
which,
Yeah, and that was pointed
Can't
out
buy
to
them.
us, so
So it is more than hot dogs and sausage.
It is more than hot dogs.
we're doing hot dogs and sausages. And if we're gonna serve soup, I think that we would use the suggestion that we got.
So, maybe, I'm sorry if I'm being thick, but I'm hearing it's gonna be hot dogs and sausages, but then I'm also hearing it's gonna be single-serving soups.
Well, if single-serving soups are approved, we'll serve single.
But you are
soups.
requesting that,
Oh, we're asking.
yeah, that's what I mean, you're asking,
Yeah.
okay.
but I think the idea was there, and I'm not saying this is right, it's rather than bringing in the bag of soups from Legal Seafood
So
every
so
day,
that I
it'd be a
understand,
single-serve
yeah,
prepared.
so that I understand, it's just that as this is written, it's very confusing,
Yeah.
what you're asking for.
Maybe should.
On this
redefine
variance
it.
one of,
Well, we're in discussion now. If we move to the point
Yeah.
where we actually take a vote on this, we're going to need a final set of, where
Yeah,
we don't have these
that gets-
conflicts built in.
right, there's,
Do we have our menu? We have a copy of our menu. that we
I
handed
think,
out?
quite personally, moving forward to the menu is way beyond
I agree.
where we have even gotten yet.
yeah,
because
I'm not suggesting
there-
that, yeah.
I would like to see you either make it a fixed location and go by those rules and regulations, or make it mobile and go by those rules and regulations. Because basically, I'm sitting here listening, and what you'd like to do is one, but you don't want to have to do what is required to be that. And then you look at the other one, and you're asking the same thing. You'd like it to be treated as mobile, but you want it to be permanent. And you're taking the best of both worlds. And anybody in town that's got a small restaurant that has to have a septic system, and has to have this, and has to have that, has got to wonder, why is this mobile hot dog stand here when it's not there under the rules and regulations of what the rules and regulations define as mobile? I mean, mobile is, yeah, if you pack it and you put it on blocks, now it's not mobile anymore. But if it's still got wheels on it, you just,
There's so
you're
many
trying to
variances.
create something that we don't have rules and regulations and bylaws for. It's either got to be one or the other. And with that being said, I think to jump ahead and say, well, what's going to be on the menu? I mean,
Well, this is why I
you're not
agree
even
with Bill.
close to that yet.
Yeah.
You know, what I'm hearing is you want to be able to move it occasionally, a few times during the summer. That doesn't preclude you from hooking this up to a real septic system. You know, I'm trying not to read into it, but it seems what you're trying to do is avoid the cost of a septic system for a facility that's going to be there 99% of the time, whereas every other restaurant in town has to have a septic system.
And you'll have,
And tell me
I
if I'm
can
wrong,
see
but it
down
seems
the
like you're
road.
trying to, the variances are really more to reduce your costs than to allow the flexibility you want.
Or just to get what they want.
and you have no seating, but I can't help but think that down the road, you know, there's going to be picnic tables and so on and so forth. I mean, if I was in the business, I would want that. The rules and regulations, as I read them for a mobile unit, are there to apply to a unit that shows up for a carnival, or a one-day event, or a two-day event,
Construction site.
and then it's gone.
And for me.
And you're trying,
Where that actually creates, this is my thoughts, and you guys are the public health professionals, and you have a number of full-time public health professionals on your board. But my view is that if you have a truly mobile cart that has no identifiable home base that can serve whatever the hell it wants to serve because it travels all around and there is no real fixed opportunity for inspections, tracking food, where it's coming from, what it's served, those kind of things. To me, that creates more of a public health threat than this does. Because to clarify my letter, just is that I said, we want to serve hot dogs, we want to serve these other things. If we're not going to do that, that's fine, we don't need to do that. But by limiting our menu, having it in a fixed location, having an ability to make sure that we're complying with our food plan, which we submitted to the Board of Health, I don't really perceive of what the public health risk is. And when I state that, I totally understand your last comments when we were here that said, I don't know if I want to have a bunch of random vehicles showing up at different places serving fast food in my town. Well, my view is that that's the planning board's purview, and our job here as a Board of Health is to make sure that we're going to be protected as much as if we are there or down there or fixed location or mobile. And I think we're fully planning on doing that from a public health standpoint. I don't really see what that.
I can buy most of that with some details provided on what you're going to be doing for storage and that sort of thing, which you provide some of which, except for the septic system. Every other restaurant in town that's there, the sub shop and everybody else, has to have a fixed septic system. There is a public health issue. We use tight tanks as a last resort. How many tight tanks have we approved in this town?
Quite a few.
Maybe one, maybe two.
No, we have.
And always for existing sites, I believe.
And they're always a last resort, never on new construction or a new
So that's kind of my
facility.
concern with this is really, I mean, you
Title
can
V
convince
doesn't
me that you're
allow
going to do an equivalent job of cleaning it. You can convince me that you're going to, do an equivalent job of storage and refrigeration. Though I still have questions about your motives here. It seems frankly you're just trying to get around costs, but if you can do it, that's not really our big issue. But the septic system really is an issue because we don't allow, tight tanks are a last resort. And you're avoiding the cost of putting in a septic system. I don't see any other way to analyze this. You've got a site that's going to be, a restaurant that's going to be there by your own admission 95+% of the time, but you're going to have a septic system. We wouldn't allow that for a trailer home, we wouldn't allow that for new construction, we wouldn't allow that for any fixed restaurant. And there are public health issues with having those tight tanks because
You gotta clean them.
they clean them, it's a snowstorm, it freezes, there are issues with that, which is the reason why I typically don't allow tight tanks. So to me, that's the major sticking point for me is that septic.
And I have another major sticking point. With food being stored on that trailer when everyone knows mice, squirrels, rats, whatever, love to get into trailers. And if you keep food, and that's why part of the road requires that you store it in a fully compliant facility. And the thing about it is you can't just like put it, have all the food arrive at your home and then put it on your truck. The food code doesn't allow that, doesn't allow you to store at home, doesn't allow you to receive. So where are you going to store, what are you going to do with all that? Because that is a health hazard that you haven't addressed yet, so.
Well, I think it would need to be addressed. I'm not sure I agree that you couldn't rodent-proof a trailer any more than you could some of the old buildings, we have restaurants in here, you're not going to rodent-proof. So I'm
And my only answer to that is that we have adequate refrigeration freezers on, this trailer's a big trailer. It's not
You own
something that's the size.
Triumph
of this
Leasing, right?
table.
No, AJ.
AJ,
Yeah,
but
well-
he's your partner.
I disagree with you on that
Well,
respectfully.
we do disagree on that one, because I think,
But,
having dealt a lot
the
with
type of
pest
food
issues,
that
having
you're
dealt a
gonna
lot with
have-
pest issues, you can deal with them on a mobile. Talk to the Army, they've done it many, many times.
So the foods, though, that will not be frozen will not be refrigerated. The things like the buns and different things. So I think that needs some thought.
I would agree, it needs thought and it needs to be detailed, but I don't think it's outside of reason to expect a trailer. The Army's done it, MEMA does it, a lot of people do mobile, but we would need to see those
But it's not
details.
permanent, Brad. It's not permanent, like 6 months, a year.
You might want to talk
The
to some of the
MEMA
people in Louisiana about that, it's been pretty long. There's nothing particular about a trailer that makes it any less rodent-proof than a building, a fixed building. You do need to address that. The tight tank is, I don't see any way around that.
And they can have a small tight tank, they don't really need a big one, small one, as long as they keep.
Well, we have a
it.
250-gallon tank.
Is what our proposal is, and
It's already on. trailer, right?
Would you allow that for a small fixed restaurant?
No, because you have a lot of people going to the restaurant. But this one here, how many people are
Even for a
going?
takeout?
You show me this, how many people?
If somebody came and we're gonna put a fixed hot dog stand without a septic system, would you approve it, Gino?
All depends. All depends. You know, years ago, they used to have, not septis, but they had years ago. And they keep it clean.
Well, years ago, we
Now
used to
we-
have cholera epidemics too, but, you know.
I'm saying, I'm just giving an example. What we had years ago before the septic system,
Cholera.
because they didn't take care of it. But he says, for the amount of people that come, as long as they keep it clean, there will be like a restriction. That means you have to keep it clean and you bring the receipt right here to the office.
I was gonna say, how do we monitor that? So how do we enforce that?
We have a contract with the company that's gonna empty it.
And we could, set up a...
What's the regs call for inspections?
There isn't any.
There isn't, this would be part of the variance and the conditions we put on a variance, and we gave one, we can.
And
You can have
I
it
think
together.
my part, if you were going to approve it, part of our dumping records could be a requirement that we send a copy of that invoice to the Neshoba Board of Health or
We could
to
get
Shelley or
service
whatever.
records from Rada or whoever it is you're hiring,
Yeah.
we could show that. I
Right.
mean, it means somebody needs to look at it and review it and that sort of thing, which is, is an issue for resources, but
Yeah, so to me,
It can be addressed.
I think Ann's concern about
Refrigerator.
rodents, et cetera, is valid, but I think there are, I think that's probably as easily addressed as anything. The tight tank situation seems to be, like you said, needs to be more flushed out. I was looking through, I didn't see, and I don't know if there was meetings prior to my getting on the board, but I've not, how big is the trailer? I say it's a pretty large trailer, but I don't remember seeing
It's 8 by
drawing.
24.
It's an 8x24.
how do they deal with those, those old diners, like in the James Dean movies, and those were fairly mobile, how do they deal with those?
I think they're fixed.
They
They kind of
eventually-
set them up and they're fixed.
Well, they're fixed
Not
now.
like a mobile,
They're fixed now, but they were trailers, they were.
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, I don't think there was the regulations and.
I could see my way around a lot of this, assuming site plan review and assuming ZBA for takeout. But the tight tank thing is just not something, that one's in conflict with basically everything this board's done.
So let me ask you a question. How do we get a list of what we need to do?
Yeah,
Because this has
well,
been 2
that's-
years, and we've gotten 3 lists so far. And every time we come back, there's different regulations. So how do we get a list on
I'm not sure
everything
that's
we
true.
need to do?
These have all been on the table, these issues have all been on the table before, I think, with the exception of maybe the rodent one.
Well, they print a list for us to do. It's 14 items. We did the 14
If
items.
it's mobile, and we can
Well,
get,
they also told you to
in,
come here and if you were looking for
Yeah, who
variance.
gave you the 14 items?
Neshoba,
Uh-huh.
Is that based on it
And
being
then we
fixed
went-
or mobile or your hybrid?
a mobile.
Okay, but you're,
Okay.
and so if we're mobile.
but you're not mobile, you want variances from being mobile, I think that's what's throwing it up.
No.
If you wanted to stay mobile, this would be easy.
Yeah, I think the first thing that, and I'll say it again, make a decision. Do you want to be mobile or do you want to be permanent? Because in order to accommodate what you want to end up with, we'd have to come up with an entirely new set of rules and regulations to accommodate a mixed, as you put it earlier, a mixed breed.
Well, I don't think so. I think that what we really have to do is, when you're given a list of the 14 things to accomplish for a mobile unit, and you comply with that list for a mobile unit,
And that's what it is.
then we can be a mobile unit, and we should be able to be opened up right away.
But did the list they give
But
you
you're
include
not going to
septic,
be
or what did
mobile,
it
you're
say?
No,
going
it
to be
did not.
fixed. By whose definition is it mobile? If it's going to be fixed, if it's going to stay at that site.
We'll move it every night. That's not
And,
really...
but if our goal was to, if we were gonna, you still have a relationship with Neshoba?
No, it's, well, I did have a relationship with Neshoba.
Okay.
So if it's gonna be mobile and you're gonna move it every night, do you need any variances from whatsoever, can you just follow the mobile regs? The food
We
truck
can,
regs?
but say we went to Neshoba, hypothetically, just because that was where our preliminary discussions were, And,
Well, we have another location as well that we can go to.
okay, but say it was Neshoba, then if there's inadequate septic facilities, then we have to go back to you, then I guess that.
But if it's mobile, it's like a food truck, then it's allowed to have a tank that you can
Right.
redo it, and you go into a central location every night, where a lot of your cleansing will be for a fixed septic or a sewer.
It would be, but if that septic was inadequate, then I would say.
So I
maybe
think
that's
it's a
all.
given, it's gotta be adequate. And I don't know the details in the Neshoba garage, I was told today they have septic issues there, and probably wouldn't view too kindly adding to that discharge there.
No, we have another location.
Yeah, so if you went to another location,
Sorry?
and you follow the food truck stuff,
Another restaurant?
if you follow the food truck regs, we don't need to annoy you anymore. You've got the food truck regs.
It's not annoying, it's just that, you know,
We've been trying, and one of the,
I understand where
in
you're
one
coming
in one of the things, hold on, let me speak for one sec. One of the things that you said is that we look like we're trying to work around regulations to reduce our costs.
Yep.
I think that that is, could be construed as being 100% correct. Can also be construed as, look, we actually, they tried. They went to Roland, they said, what do you have to do? If it's mobile, you don't have to do anything. Great. So what is it in, then Bill says, what's the definition of mobile? I don't know what the heck the definition of mobile is, and.
Well, I think the regs are, you go to a central location every night.
That's
And that's where the cleaning and the storage and all those things take
Then
place.
therefore, that's maybe a defined term if you want to.
But I think that's what the regs are required of a mobile, where you have a central location, where you do the cleaning every night, where the food's stored, you know, and where you have a working septic system.
So,
or sewer.
and then
That central
what we ended up
location.
having is, you know, from our
Is
perspective,
certified.
is.
The first one was certified as well, and the new one is certified also.
Yeah.
So can I make a suggestion? 'Cause
Sure, please.
You guys are just going in circles at this point. I think you need to just say, is this mobile, what you're doing, go back to Bridget and Jim, and get Bridget and Jim to update their, saying that you've complied with all their 14 conditions, which they write a report to the board saying they've satisfied all these conditions. The board at that point, if there are any variances left, can consider them, or it's just done.
Yeah, because.
But I think we need to know, we haven't seen anything from Bridget saying that these 14 issues have been complied with, so if you're truly going by the mobile, you just have to provide to her what that location you're going to every night is, so she's satisfied that that meets those requirements, and that you've met those other 14 conditions. They'll give an update at the next meeting, and maybe this can get wrapped up.
From our last meeting, you were looking for 4 variances, and there was variances from the mobile. You were looking for the bathrooms, which wouldn't required for a food truck. You were looking for cleaning, which could be done at the central location, and you're looking for a variance for there. So if you're going back to a central location, that would be moot. You were looking for basically a tight tank on site, which again would be moot because that's not required for a food truck. And the storage as well, which the storage could be at the central location. You would have a food truck, I don't think you'd even have to come
I
to
think
us.
the only issue they still would have is that bathroom issue, and I don't think.
Well, the
it's
food
an
truck's not
issue
required to have a
because- right,
bathroom.
Because, yes, so, as long as,
So if you're a
Reducing
mobile
general
food truck, and
where
I
they're doing.
appreciate that you're trying to do a hybrid and that stuff, and I could almost buy all of it except for the septic, because you are fixed for that long a period of time. Ann has concerns about other, Bill has others, that one I could, but I don't see any way around it. But again, if you went with the mobile and followed the mobile regs, I don't see where you'd need a variance from us.
As long as your central location that you go back to is certified.
In the state of Massachusetts.
Right.
In the state of
Which you said
Massachusetts,
it is.
590.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
so you got
it.
you got your septic, you got your storage, you've got your sanitary cleaning, and the bathroom's moot because you're a food truck. Just like the ones on Boston Common, there's no bathroom there either, but they still sell tacos.
Right.
And then it allows a fuller menu as you've proposed here then.
Yeah, and then you're
So-
not limited to just hot dogs.
Right, yeah.
So
So
I-
when you said that if it move, you'd be happy, to me, that seems like the route to go.
What, to move it?
Yeah.
So
to
the
have it
challenge
be
is
true.
to go through all these variances, which we have varying degrees of discomfort on different ones on the board, or do you drive it to, I don't know, your location and meet the mobile regs?
Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
Okay.
I think we bored your son.
Fall asleep?
Yeah.
No.
He left.
He probably went down to his Boy Scout.
It was supposed to be a lessons in civics, so we probably achieved it.
Yes, yeah, this was a civics thing for him, for Boy Scouts, so I'm sure he went, well, I'm not.
So government's a lot of things, throwing it at him.
Yes.
Do you think he'll
Good luck.
become an Eagle Scout?
Yes, oh yeah, he's well on his, well, he's very close to, probably within 2 ranks already.
I don't know Eagle Scout at any age who isn't super proud of that accomplishment.
Yep,
You know,
yep,
they're,
he's very close. Yeah.
James
Yeah.
O'Ray.
Well, yeah, there are a couple, the guy that went up in the tower at Texas, but.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just for the record, I had every concern you did as well.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
But I thought you handled that well.
The bug stuff, I think we could have done with, but that's enough.
Well,
We
you mean,
don't have
you
to
mean
deal
the
with that.
vermin?
Any other business?
So, just a question, it's a moot point, I guess, but regarding the concerns around the tight tank and the septic handling, if they still wanted to pursue that, is there an alternative? Or is there no alternative, so that's the
Well,
block?
they could have tied into a septic. They
Yeah.
could have put a working septic system and put the waste pipe into that,
Close
and
to-
still been able to be mobile.
Yeah.
But
But that would have been
But it
in the
cost them money.
cost. Yeah, yeah,
You can't, yeah, that's the pen and the
25
buck they
section
disconnect every
260
day.
talks about tight tanks.
okay. All right, I'll-
you know,
15.260.
Okay.
I had them on my notes.
Bill, on your way out, can you make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, thank you.
All right.